the cardinals elected Robert Francis Prevost as the next pope, an American, a 69-year-old American who served as head of the late Pope Francis's main advisory group on picking new bishops, born in Chicago to a family that had many roots elsewhere, including in Italy. But again, it is Cardinal Prevost who has been elected Pope, Michael Shepherd, and we're awaiting him to emerge from the balcony now, keeping a close eye on the name he will have chosen after his given name.
And Kayla, we are seeing headlines that are saying that he has chosen the name Leone the 14th. And Leone the 24th, I'm sorry. And it is history-making to see an American chosen as Pope. This is the first U.S. cleric to be chosen to lead the Catholic Church from the Holy See. We did have a South American leader, of course, in Pope Francis, but this is certainly a moment in history for American Catholics and for the 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide who've been waiting in eager anticipation for this announcement.
Yeah, to your point, Mike, this will now be the second Pope from the Americas, Francis having been the first, but the first from the United States of America. And Professor Cristie Traina of Fordham University, an American Pope. Did you expect us to be at this moment?
I actually did not. I'm quite surprised. I'm very interested also that he's fairly young for a pope, so the cardinals must feel very confident in the direction that he would set. He also has strong connections in Latin America and is somewhat of a protege of Francis's. I'm curious about the name that he has chosen, whether this means that he intends to be a strongly theologically involved pope. Pope Leo XIII was the great promoter of Thomas Aquinas in Catholic theology and in applying the thought of Thomas Aquinas to social problems. And so I'm wondering if perhaps Prevost is leaning in that direction.
Do we know how close he was to his predecessor, Pope Francis? They both had ties to Latin America. Cardinal Prevost, during his time before becoming Pope, had spent years in Peru as a missionary and then as an archbishop. So what sort of connection might they have forged?
They might have forged a connection over common issues, and it's also true that Francis brought him to the Vatican for a while, which is seen as an indication that Francis wanted him to get to know the European cardinals and become known within the Vatican apparatus so that he would be a familiar quantity, if not for election to Pope, for some other senior position.
Well, and when we consider the level of seniority he already had, now his elevation to pontiff, again, we should keep in mind that it only took a few rounds of votes to actually bring him to this moment where he would be the next pope. What does this tell you about the 133 cardinals who have never, obviously not all of them having partaken in conclaves before, but chosen an American to be the leader of the Catholic Church, and the kind of unity they were able to find on this individual?
I think it's likely that the long set of meetings in the lead up to the conclave may have smoothed that pathway significantly. I was expecting a long conclave, but it's my impression that serious meetings about the direction of the church and the kind of leadership that would be needed began even before the funeral. So I think they've had time to reach some consensus on those issues.
Cristie, how does the selection of an American to lead the church intersect with the geopolitics that we are seeing outside of questions of faith and religion? Certainly, the U.S. under President Donald Trump is taking a very different posture toward its allies and adversaries alike. How does an American pope handle all of that?
That is a very good question. And that remains to be seen. But what I think this does indicate is that there's a desire possibly to go back to the global north for leadership, but to signal distance from Europe in doing that. And so that's probably part of what's going on. I do expect that Prevost will not endorse President Trump's main initiatives. The indication is that he will oppose them pretty strongly. And so it remains to be seen how much pressure there will be put on the US by the Vatican and vice versa.